Hey, it's TDA and welcome back to episode 21 of our Super Proliferation run. This is Dyson Sphere and we are trying, of course, to build a large factory, a super large factory. As you can see, we made quite a lot of progress on that already. And we are, as you know, back on our planet Delroy Clark, where we are trying to make a huge super facility that is going to produce us 30 rockets per second. Now, in order to do that, we are going to have to build a lot of stuff, and specifically we are going to have to build a lot of deuterium fuel rods. And yeah, the fuel rods themselves not really a problem, at least the recipe itself is fairly straightforward. The huge problem that we mostly solved in the last episode is the 20 deuterium per 12 seconds that needs to go in there. If we need 96 per second of the deuterium, we are going to need hundreds upon hundreds of deuterium. So, in order to fix that, we are going to, at least in order to keep that manageable, we are not going to make one single build that tries to make 96 of those fuel rods all at once, but we are rather going to split that up in a much more compact build that is actually going to produce exactly 12 fuel rods per second, and then we're going to build that 8 times. Now, kind of feels like cheating, but to be honest, it's just being efficient and practical. Not only because that makes the stuff on the belts a lot more easy to manage, but it also means that we have a lot more ILSs in place that can actually request all of that deuterium, so we actually have enough vessels flying back and forth. Because if you only have one ILS, even though you could be requesting it from a lot of places in the universe, once it actually is requesting 10,000, it will not be requesting any more than that. And if those vessels are still on their way, new vessels won't be leaving the stations until that demand has landed, and then within a few seconds it will be gone, and you're stuck waiting for the next batch to come in. So having several ILSs at the same time requesting that stuff makes it a lot more efficient, and it will at least ensure that your factory actually keeps working. So let's get to it. And as usual, I am making this build on the fly, so apologies if I end up correcting myself halfway through. The idea that I have is to make the fuel rods, of course, over here in the left corner, and we will build ourselves a way outward. But we're also going to bring in the deuterium from over here. And the way I think I want to do that, and once again I reserve the right to change my mind, is to have a nice little row of these over here. Now we're going to need a total of 40 assemblers making fuel rods. So 15 is close enough. Well, no, it's not close enough, but this is 20. And then I think we could have the 2 belts incoming over here. And those are going to be the 2 main ingredients that we need to produce in order to make the fuel rods. So the fuel rods need alloy, deuterium, and some supermagnetic rings. So if we place them like this, we have 15, and I will be moving the ILS, of course, to align that a little bit better than it currently is. There we go. That is 20 in total. Now, we also want to, let's copy paste that for a moment so I don't have to set the recipe again. There we go. We won't be able to perfectly align this, but that's not a problem. Let's do it like this. We do actually want to move everything out a little bit, I think. But we can solve that by removing these 2. Because we of course also need to be proliferating our stuff. And I didn't leave enough room for that, I think. So I think that should solve that issue at least. These belts don't need to be quite that long. And then what we can do is we can have these outgoing belts, something like this perhaps. And then similarly we'll have a belt going like this, and I think we should have enough room for a spray coater over there. Yeah, that should be easy enough. There we go. And then we are going to need some deuterium and deuterium. Really confusing that changes depending on what we're looking at. We are going to need 2 of those, and I hope this fits actually. Will it? so. Barely, but it fits. There we go. And then we can bring that back and something like that. Now, I really don't like how the stackers kind of mess up the symmetry in some of the builds, but we'll have to deal with it. The reason we need to stack these up is we need a little bit more than 1.5 belt on each side, so 2 belts is going to be overkill, but it's either 1 or 2. I didn't set the recipe there, so let's do that. And yeah, so there's no such thing as having too much resources on a belt. And then we can add those together over here, something like that. I'm gonna just leave it here for a moment. I will finish off that belt, but that just takes a lot of time to finick around, and I don't want to waste your time. This is the crack belt. Just to make sure I don't get confused, this is the outgoing belt. And then we are going to need some alloy, and we are going to need some super magnetic rings. And each of those, because we scaled down the build a little bit, is actually not going to be too hard. We are going to need some alloy, which is a pretty straightforward thing. So we actually are going to focus on getting the rings first. And the rings themselves, let's make sure we leave enough room over here for the belts, of course. This is the outgoing belt. Yeah, skipping on the belts might not have been the best idea. Or at least not if I want to not have to correct my own mistakes, that is. And let's see, we can have an outgoing belt, something like this. We do need to make sure we leave room for proliferation. That's not really a problem if we put it over there. And then we can have 8 of these. And these are going to be producing the rings. And remember, we need 3 inputs for that, so that should be okay as long as we just keep it in a single row. So we're going to need all those 3 inputs on this side. The reason I try to keep everything on one side is actually very simple. I want to keep this build as tiny and square as possible, and that might imply that I'm going to have to rearrange a few things at some point. If that's the case, we'll deal with that at that point. We are going to have the rings on this belt. Rings, where are you? There we go. And then we are going to put not sulfuric acid, alloy. There. I was thinking about the sulfuric acid because, of course, we are going to need some sulfuric acid to make the alloy. But we are, first of all, going to need 12 of these. And that's quite nicely aligned with the other ones, so... once again, the alloy needs 3 inputs, as you know, titanium, steel, and acid. And we might need to fiddle around a little bit with how we place those, but for now, let's assume they are coming from this side. And yeah. So before we continue, I'll make sure I set up some sorters, some power, and stuff like that, and then we can focus on the next step of this build. Okay, so we have organized this a little bit more, and let's see, we are probably going to want to focus on the turbines first, because they will need a lot of room, and they probably, well, they mostly need a lot of room because they have several steps involved. So let's see, if we place the turbines on this belt, then we can have a row of turbines over here, and we need exactly 9 of those, so that's quite nice. We can autosave apparently. Yes, and then we can align those with those nice assemblers up there. So we'll have the outgoing belt for the turbines over here. For the turbines, we're going to need engines and coils, and we are actually going to need 14 assemblers for engines, and that's not gonna fit quite nicely in here. So what I think we're actually going to do, we're just going to take this. We are going to park that over there for a moment. We're just going to delete this. We do need to make sure we remember that we actually have to place that back at some point. But the reason I wanted to delete that is that we are going to have to build some assemblers for the engines. And if we build them over here, how many did I say? We need 14, right? So this is 15. we just take out that one. That would leave enough space for the spray coater over there. I'm not entirely sure if it makes sense to leave that one out, but let's assume this is the engine belt. And we can bring it out. Bring it up here. And then turn it around. Now actually I'm going to move this entire row one down. I do like the placement though, but the reason I want to bring all of them down is this belt is actually not going to go up there. But this belt is going to go up here. This is going to be the coils. We are going to need those for the engines as well as the turbines. And if we put it like that, I think we can make it a little bit nicer looking. So again, 15, take that one out. So these are going to be the engines. And the engines are going to need 3 inputs as well. So that is another reason to make sure we have 2 belts on the same side. Did I just place it back exactly where I left it? Yeah, I did. So, second belt on this side. And that one is going to go up. And then we have to place down the engine build. Let's do it with the recipe this time around. You might see the FPS thing pop up in the top left corner every now and then. It seems my game is starting to struggle a little bit with the mass production that we're doing. It's to be expected at this point in the game. I don't have the most impressive machine you've ever seen. I probably should start working on that sometime soon. But at least for now, yeah, I have a pretty average PC. So whatever I can do, you can probably do, or can do it better. But there is a limit to how much processing power you can handle in this game, depending on your machine. It gets quite taxing when you have large numbers going on at some point. Now let's see, we have the coils as well as we need, of course, iron and gears, but that's not going to be a problem. Neither is going to be the coils. Coils was the word I was looking for. And, okay, so we need 2 incoming belts somewhere over here. Need to make sure we leave enough room for that. There we go. And then I think if we place the coils... what makes the most sense? I think it makes the most sense if we place them here. Yeah, we are going to place them there, but we are going to do that like this. It was this belt with the coils. I want to copy paste this, please. Thank you. All the way around. There we go. Let's remove that actually for a moment so we can place the memo under it. Otherwise that won't work. Pretty annoying. There we go. So that's that. So that means that we need 6 assemblers making coils. And not engines, but coils. There we go. And there we go. So, just to make sure we know what we're doing, we have the coils over here. And then we have engines over there. And we're going to have coils over here. And then we are going to have turbines over there. And we are going to have the magnetic rings over there. There we go. Okay, so getting a little bit closer. Now, in order to have these be made, we are going to need some magnets and we're going to need some copper. And we can just do that like this. With the magnets, so let's assume for a moment this is the magnets ring. We are also going to need those up here, because remember, these are made from magnets, among other things. If we do that like this, that won't actually work. this is going to be the alloy, but we don't necessarily need to put this belt over here. So what we could do is have this neatly go around and go like that. And then we have the magnets over there. We don't need to proliferate those because we do need to already have proliferated them at an earlier stage for the coils. So that means that this belt is going to be copper. Now, I'm once again going to hook up some things and then we can go on to the next part. Okay, so our build is starting to shape up really nicely. Do we need to proliferate anything in between here? Not just yet, but what we can do is place a little assembler over here, or to be specific, 6, because we need to produce cogs over here. And if I remember, yeah, so we need to have cogs on this belt and iron over here, and that iron is going to serve 2 purposes. It's going to supply the cog facilities with iron, and then it's going to produce the iron as well for the engines. So we should have that all sorted, and that also means that we can simply proliferate over here. That's nice and efficient. So that takes care of the cogs. Now we are going to need a truckload of iron as well as magnets for the coils as well as the magnetic rings. Not entirely sure if there is a very good position to build those in, so we're just going to set it up first, and then we're going to see if that's the actually the place where we want to keep it. We do have a little room here, and it's going to be close, but I think we should be able to stick a spray coater over here. Yeah, we could actually have move it all the way up here if we need to, but we think we can just stick it on the belt over here. We only need 1 actually, so that does mean that if we want to do that, we need to make sure we don't build out too far. So let's assume this is the iron facility. We are going to need 30 of those. Not all of those 30 are actually going to be used in this direction. Because 8 of those are going to be used for steel. Because we also need some iron for the alloy. Why am I doing that like that? That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. And then we can have another outgoing belt, something like this. And we do need 2 incoming belts, so it might make sense to have an ILS in the middle over here. And like I said, this I might have to completely change this at some point, but for now it seems to make somewhat sense to put it over here, because if we place it down like that, what we can do is have 2 belts run through here, and that's going to be belts with iron ore. There we go. And those are going to run through here. Did I actually place the recipe on that? No, I didn't. I'm so gonna forget that if I don't do it straight away. Wouldn't be the first time I fire up a facility and then like 5 minutes later I'm like, why is that not working? I'm pretty sure it should be working, and it turns out if you don't supply it with raw materials, it's not going to do anything. Strange as that might sound. We are taking a bit of a risk here by placing it so close, so I am actually going to move it 1 step out. And once again, that's not because it doesn't work over here, but no. Click. You want to go too fast, you only end up slowing yourself down sometimes. There's probably a nice wisdomy saying in your language that says something along those lines. I'm not actually sure we have a Dutch equivalent of that. I won't try to pronounce things in Dutch for you guys because I've been told it sounds like someone is throwing up. So yeah, we have a lot of hard G sounds in our language that just sounds like you're clearing your throat. And apparently that's not pleasant to listen to, so I won't do that. It's evening here, by the way, if you're wondering why I'm trying to stay quiet a little bit. People are sleeping in the house, so yeah. What was I doing? Oh yeah, belts. So, if we do that like this, actually, no, that's not gonna work because we also need to proliferate that. So we need to take it out even further. Yep, wouldn't be the first time I forget about that either. But we can be a little bit, because what we can do, and your sorter placement is actually kind of important. So ideally you want to place the... Why is that going in this... Oh yeah, sorry, that's going in that direction. I was about to wonder why that was going there. Anyway, what you want to do is you want to make sure your sorters are as far away possible from the place that you're going to place your spray coater. Now, the reason for that, so for example, in this case, let's place down the spray coater. If we place it all the way up there, we can actually use all that space and get it a lot closer. On the other hand, so if you're outputting on a belt, so here, for example, this belt is going in this direction. If I place it like that, I can also make sure, again, I can place it very close to where we're coming from. And by doing that, I leave myself as much space as I possibly can in order to place down the ILS in this case, but whatever facility you might want to place close to where you're building. You have plenty of room on your planet usually, but there's no reason not to try and be efficient about that. And yes, I think this is now the third or fourth time I'm placing down this ILS. But you guys like building this with me, so. And this is actually perfect because now we can pass this over there as well. Yeah, looking good. Alright, this is 30 smelters. We also need to make sure we are proliferating the output. We only need to do that once, and we can do that over there, so we should have enough room for that. I'm really liking how this is staying compact for now. We're not quite done yet, but let's try to figure out how many other smelters and stuff we need. And let's see if we can keep that as compact as we are keeping this. So the magic number is 35 smelters of copper, well not copper, magnets that we're going to need. If we place down 30 like this and another, well this is 30 total, then we're going to need 5 more. I think we can simply place those down like this. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So what I want to do, and I'm not entirely sure I can do this, but let's find out. I want an incoming belt over here, so I'm gonna have an outgoing belt like this. And then over there. I'm gonna make sure that looks a little nicer than it does now, but for the moment, this is going to go like this, all the way through. Then I'm gonna go and make a magic little bridge. Tiny little bridge. There we go. Might as well keep it symmetric with the other belts, even though we don't really need the space over here. And that can go like that. Now I'm really wondering if we can make a little bridge like that here as well. That would be... yeah, we actually don't need to go all that far up. This is also going to be iron. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. We have to not forget lack of item. Oh, wait. I'm pretty sure I ordered more of those. There we go. Can't run out of stackers, can we? Well, we can, but we have plenty of those. We need to proliferate the outputs as well as the inputs, so that should fix all of that. So we now have 35 magnet smelters over here. There we go. And then this is going to be the magnets. Making sure you get your inputs and outputs right is very useful when you're making builds like this. Yeah, this is going to be once again the inputs and the inputs. And we have the outputs over there. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Yes, yes, yes. We are also going to need some steel. What else do we need? We need steel. We need titanium as well, sulfuric acid. So it might make sense to actually flip this around maybe and put that a little lower. And just have a major smelting facility here in the middle. However, we do need to make sure we get that copper somewhere close to over here, because that's where it needs to go. So ideally I would want to have that just below here actually. Maybe something like, let's align it with this one. Eight of them. Do we need 8? Yes, we do need 8. And I do. There's several ways we can go about this, but I think the most straightforward way is have this belt go straight through. I like a belt that is just a straight line. Once again, let's not forget we need to proliferate that. We also need to proliferate output, but we can easily do that by just doing this. And then copying this spray coater. And making sure it's aligned to the other one. We can just take out this belt, because now we're reversing the way it's moving. Let's wait a moment for the autosave. There we go. And this was going to be the magnets, yes. We were already proliferating those, yes. Yes, we were. So, once again, let's make a tiny little bridge. Why are you not working, my little bridge? There we go. There we go. And then this needs to go around the corner. And yep, that looks pretty clean indeed. Did I just... Yeah. This is not going to work. We don't need the ore to go there. And once again, like I said, you need to make sure you don't mess up your inputs and outputs. This is going to be the bars and this is going to be the ore. This one needs to go up there. There we go. Because once again, this is the copper. And the thing with proliferation is, like you can see, and you've been seeing me do this dozens of times now, but it does scale up your build quite a bit because you need to leave room for all the spray coaters. Whereas before you might have just put it on the belt and then it would sort itself out and it's all just fine. But yeah, that's the additional little puzzle the copper brings us. We are also going to need to figure out where to put the steel, because now we have this belt over here and it's turning into a little bit of spaghetti, because we are also going to have to bring that belt, somewhere else. Or do we? Because alternatively what we could actually do, that might not even be such a bad idea, is that we actually take this out. Put a splitter here. This is going to be producing more than 15 per second. So if we split off half, yeah, that should actually work. Just bring that in like that. That does mean that we have to revert. We can actually take this one out entirely. Simply have this belt go in the same direction. Now we do need to make sure that we proliferate it at some point. So hopefully I won't forget about that. And if I do, you can shout at me in the comments. But we can bring the iron down here. And then we are going to need a total of 8 smelters. For example, like so. These are going to be steel smelters. Maybe actually I want to leave a little bit more room probably. Why? Because I actually want to make sure I have enough. I prefer to kind of keep my outputs usually on the upper side compared to where I need it to go, because I think because remember we have the alloy copy pasted over there. We are going to bring that down, so it's 3 inputs, so we do need to make sure we have enough room to get all those inputs going. And if we do it like this, then we can have this built like so. But once again, not iron, we have iron, we need steel. That leaves enough room to kind of fiddle around with some stuff. Spacing out the belts like that means you always have room to put in an assembler or a smelter in between, and typically that makes life easier. I'm not entirely sure if it makes life that much easier in this case, but for now that will do. Now let me figure out what else we need. I think we're getting close to done, but we have a few more steps remaining, so let's make sure I figure out how many buildings we need for each. Okay, so we are almost done. I took back the copy-pasted build that we had parked on the right side, and I figured it would just fit in here. It's nicely aligned with the magnets, it's nicely aligned with the copper. I did move them 1 square to the right in order to make it align and leave enough room for this belt over here, but all in all I think that should fit. Now we also of course already have this nice little belt with steel over here that we have yet to proliferate, but we can do that right over here. I did have to flip this around, by the way, because otherwise the input sorter wouldn't work. Like I said, you have to make sure you put it out as far as you can. Even then, I didn't leave myself enough room, but we fixed that. So, what are we going to do about this? Let's see, we still have to do a few things. We might actually want to move this up here, so we have it be a bit less in the way. There we go. Because we need a few more things. So we already now have the steel here. But we are also going to need titanium, and we're going to need acid. The acid itself is going to be pretty straightforward, but we also need titanium, and we actually need 7 smelters with titanium. So we could place those down something like this. And we are also actually... What we could maybe do... We actually have exactly enough room for 7... Well, no, not like that, not like that. But over here we have exactly enough room for 7 smelters. Ideally I would like to align those. I think we can. The autosave isn't messing it up. Let's see. Can we align these 7 smelters where I want to have them? 7 smelters like this. We would need an output belt. Let's say this is the titanium. We could do that, something like that. Then we still need the input belt as well. So this would have to be the input belt. It also needs to be proliferated. So once again, let's make sure we mark this up. So this is the output belt. This is the input belt, and as I've said before, I'm making this up as I go along. So think out loud with me. That does cause a problem with the steel now, because we also need to bring the steel up there. This was going to be our steel belt. However, it doesn't need to be our steel belt if we just make it our titanium belt. What we then need to do is make sure we flip these around, so we could do this like that. And this is the incoming belt, and this is the outgoing belt. So we are probably going to need another ILS. Can we fit it over here? We can. Although we should probably place it somewhere like over here, so it's a little bit less in the way. This is going to be titanium. There we go. Now we could simply do it something like this. Take that out. Have that go like this. Make a tiny little bridge again. We need to start one before the belt. And take this out. And then you connect it to an already existing belt on the floor. And then you can make this tiny little hop, minimized little bridge. Okay, so then we have steel. And assuming that we proliferate that over here. This is steel. And then we are just missing graphite, and we can actually do that like this. We are once again going to need 7 of that. There, I guess. Doesn't really matter, I think. We are once again going to... well, no. We are already proliferating that over there. But what we could do... coal. We need coal. That's the basic thing. We need coal, and then we are going to bring that down here. And like this, and then I have a feeling the spray coater is probably not going to fit. It can fit, but we are cutting it really close, so we might as well just take that one out, place that one over there, and make sure we don't mess up the blueprint for you guys. There we go. This is going to be graphite and coal, and then the graphite actually needs to go where? All the way up here, and it needs to be this middle belt. Whoops. Let's try that again. Graphite, outgoing belt. There. Actually have it in one more. Is the correct one? Check, double check. Yes, this was the one belt that we didn't assign just yet. We do also need to flip this one around, apparently, because we haven't done that yet. Which is quite important if I want it to work. So this was the magnets, and this is going to be the graphite. And then we have all the required components for the rings. That is so nice, so nice, so nice. Graphite over here. There we go. And am I forgetting anything? So now we have the steel connected over here. We have it proliferated. Right, we also need the acid. And we actually have room for that over here. So let's have this be the acid production facility. Let's bring it to this side. And why are we doing it like that? Well, that means that we can do this. And where does it need to go? Oh, it's actually the other one. That one. Flipping the bell around. Sorters stay in place, really nice. That one can go. And because we started it from that side, now we can just proliferate it right over there. There we go. And yeah, I think that sorts most of what we need, or hopefully all that we need. Now I get the nice little challenge of trying to make sense of how we are going to proliferate all of that. I also need to hook up some more power, some sorters and things like that, and then let's go and test it out. And there we go, we set everything up, we have all the power connected, we have all the sorters sorted out. We are producing some steel over here. That was one of the last things to come into gear. We are now actually also producing gears, cogs. Technically, we are producing engines. So far, all of this seems to be producing like intended. We are now also starting to produce the magnetic rings, and well, we have a huge amount of alloy already incoming. And as you can see, we have now started to produce our first fuel rods. Now this is only 12 per second, and when I say only, you can probably power 2 or 3 planets worth of stuff from that amount of deuterium fuel rods if you would want to power it with fission plants. But anyway, just 12 per second, considering we need 96 per second for our goal. But yeah, for now that seems to be our mission accomplished right here. Now all we need to do is build this 7 more times for 8 times total. Well, it took a while, but now we have all 8 facilities up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And actually, that fits exactly around our planets combined with the other builds that we've already done. So as you can see, well, okay, not exactly. We have this little open space over here. So I could have spaced it out more, stuff like that, etc, etc. But generally speaking, we are now pretty much done with this planet when it comes to making large builds. We have one more specific item to go before we can actually make rockets, and that is the components. So just let me pull that up. Hello menu, yes. So in order to make the rockets, we are also going to need the Dyson Sphere components, because of course they need to go in the rockets. We have the fuel rods now, we have the quantum chips, we just don't have these yet. Luckily, I think actually this is the most simple to make item from all of those 3. So let's see if we can manage that in the next episode or so. For now, I really hope you enjoyed this huge build. I mean, the build itself isn't that big, but if you build it 8 times, it's, I think, actually the largest build that we've made on this channel so far. So yeah, pretty good. We actually also completely filled the equator zone of a planet, so that's first for this playthrough as well. So I hope you enjoyed that one, and I will catch you in the next one.